Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Coming to America on Amazon. And this is the sequel because it's got the two in between the Coming and to America. And I did not like this sequel whatsoever. Okay, now, I understand, oh, decades old movie, let's see kind of what goes on if we can make a sequel to it. They even fucking reference the whole thing in the plot. I say plot because there is a plot, but it is very thin and it is to a point really nonsensical and completely damages the original one. Now, the original one, Prince Akeem, does not wish to go through with an arranged marriage and wants to find a woman who he will love. So he goes to Queens, New York to find that love. Simple, effective. I love the original one. It's like peak, like one of the great examples of like Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall humor. And it's just fucking hilarious and everything going on with that. And you're gonna probably figure out where I'm kind of going with this because guess what? They pretty much just do the same kind of jokes in this one. Now, granted, not verbatim, but it's the same kind of stuff, and it just is like, oh, they like that in the original, do it here. I'm like, if I wanted to see that, I would just watch the original one because it's better, and this is just, oh. So we're opening 30 years after. We see that Akeem is still Prince because his father, James Earl Jones, is still alive. Jaffe. And he has had 3 daughters with Lisa. They fucking have McDowell's that's in Zamunda. They do a joke about the fucking plant burgers. It's like, oh, it tastes like grass. Granted, it's not that I don't want people to make fun of the plant-based burgers. Do it. But when you're just like, oh, it tastes like grass, they like barely fucking do anything for the joke. I'm like, okay? Like, make fun of it, but do it in some kind of funny-ass fucking thing. Like, oh, I don't know, they try and make a burger the McDowell's way, but they're trying to do some weird kind of shit, and for some fucked up reason it turns into the fucking plant from Little Shop of Horrors, and the burger's like, feed me, Seymour. It's like, ah. Yeah, that gets a little bit of weird and a little bit of sci-fi kind of shit in there, but that's something better than, oh, this burger tastes like grass, because it is. Is that supposed to be a joke? That would, like, ugh. Now, granted, I understand that his daughter, his eldest daughter, is kind of pissed off because, according to Zamunda law and tradition, a female can't ascend the throne. This becomes kind of problematic because this makes, not that, like, I'm like, yeah, she's a woman, she should be able to ascend the throne. It's just, one of Akeem's biggest kind of things in the original film was to challenge tradition and in some instances change it and in some instances keep it. And you're telling me that for 30 fucking years, after he's also had his family, he does absolutely fuck all to do anything with that. It kind of astounds me. I'm like, okay, yeah, his dad's still king. Alright, cool. But, like, not trying to set anything up for this kind of eventuality. It's like the plot demands that these things occur so that way we have a movie. Because, god damn, don't the plot demand happen that fucking pisses me off. So, they're pretty much getting ready for Jaffe to die. He's like, oh yeah, Zamunda's pretty much gonna get fucked by Next Doria when I die because I'm a ruthless, strong fucking king. It's like, alright, what else have you been doing? You're pretty much sick, and if Akeem is such a little shitweight, your fucking neighbors should have been like kicking down your door and fucking destroying you right now. What is stopping them now? They tell us a lot of things, but they don't really show us a lot of things with this. So, James Earl Jones wants to have his funeral while he's still alive, and then kicks off one of the biggest kind of issues that kind of occurs within this is that not only do we have a plot that's kind of nonsensical and goes kind of fuck all duty da, we get cameo after cameo after cameo that kind of derails stuff. Now, I'm of two minds. You don't want to fucking metrically shit 1,000 cameos into a movie and take up valuable plot time to focus on them. You want to strategically use them. I mean, we get Morgan Freeman and we get him at the end pretty much saying the word fuck in a blooper, which almost balances it out, but not quite. And we go into the effect of having all of these musical, like, all this music put into the film, and there's almost like a 50-50 coin toss that happens. You're either going to get Guardians of the Galaxy, where it works, or you're going to get Suicide Squad, where it's like, holy shit, okay, yeah, I get it, because it's the song, it's the song. When the fucking film looks at you and goes like, it's this song, I'm just like, come on, man, we already know. But while he is doing that for the funeral, we come to find out that in order to solve Akeem's problem, he has an illegitimate son. Bring in that Semi then does this, and it retroactively makes the original film worse, because it does a retcon where Semi, of course, was a fucking horn dog and needed to get laid because they didn't have their royal retainers and shit. So his bright idea is that he went up to two women. Remember, talked him up about being royalty and all that shit, and that's how Leslie Jones's character gets brought into, is essentially being a plot object. There's barely anything to her except just being the obnoxious person that gets brought to Zamunda with her son. Because what happens is, Semi goes off in the room with another lady. She is toking some kind of weird-ass drug shit, and Akeem thought that for some reason a boar had, like, blasted into the apartment and he fucking fought it. So what this is saying is that Akeem was drugged and raped. And that is how we get this illegitimate son. And I'm just like, sweet Jesus. There are, like, a lot of different fucking routes that you could have fucking taken for this. And who the fuck goes and like, oh, this is gonna work? Who finds this funny? Never mind the fact that we get, like, weird remade scenes with Eddie Murphy with a dude that's got a digital fucking youngified one. And just like, oh god. This... Now granted, I thought that they could have went to the fact that we have this illegitimate son, but we find out that it's actually Semi's son from someone else. No! They had that fucking out, they just, like, they passed it, waved at it, and let that slide by. And I'm just like, huh. It was important because Akeem's journey was him pretty much saving himself for the woman that he loved in that. And this shits on that. I'm just like, okay. Because evidently some shaman-ass motherfucker's like, you got an illegitimate son! So that way you can, like, retain your shit. And then Akeem pretty much acts like his father to a degree. I say acts like his father because that's what the film and the plot kind of, like, trying to show that for us. And it just doesn't really fucking work. It's just like, okay, what is Akeem doing that's like his father? Oh, he's just following the tradition that he had, like, pretty much flouted 30 years ago. Be like, I kind of want to marry my own love. And, by the way, they bring that chick back from the arranged marriage, and she's still been doing the dog shit, evidently, for 30 fucking years. I'm just like, okay, that's more fucked up than funny. Alright, it's like, alright. Okay. Granted, that's my take. If you enjoy this, that's cool. That's cool. I don't want to take, like, your enjoyment away. It's just like, why were these decisions made? So, we've also got General Izzy, played by Wesley Snipes, who's popping in and wants to pretty much take over Zamunda / cement everything region-wise with Nextdoria and Zamunda. And I don't think Wesley Snipes is doing bad. It's almost like they let him do whatever the fuck he wanted. But the thing is, it's flip-flopping between taking him seriously and him being a joke character. And it just totally goes like, it's which I don't mind tonal shifts in certain instances. Like, we get a point where he's like in Next Door yet, and he's like teaching children, he's like, all right, go play with your grenades and your AKs and all that kind of shit. I'm like, okay, that's all right, kind of funny, kind of weird. You got your warlord dude doing all this shit, but he wants to either marry his son to his eldest daughter, to Akeem's eldest daughter, to cement that and pretty much keep it. He's like, yeah, if you don't do this shit, I'm gonna fucking roll up in here and fucking shit on your shit. And it's like, what the fuck is stopping you right now? I mean, we do see that Akeem has trained his daughters in combat, but the action portions of this movie suck. It's like they didn't even fucking watch John Wick. Why do I say that? I know this isn't supposed to be an action movie, but action can show us character moments. And this was supposed to show, like, his daughters doing, like, some badass shit. But it is so poorly executed and filmed that it's just, like, I'm more pissed off for them because I'm like, you made a shitty action scene that fucks up the character development that you want to be like, yeah, you want to understand that these chicks are badass. It's like, no, this looks really poorly done and executed and just makes me feel bad for them. But okay, let's keep going. So Akeem's idea is pretty much to get his son back to pretty much marry one of his off to pretty much cement and keep someone to safe. Now, granted, there are some interesting kind of plot things within that. That could have led to some kind of, essentially, Game of Thrones kind of political intrigues and everything. We're like, okay, Akeem, he understands that tradition takes a lot of time to kind of change. And we could have even gotten to the nuts and bolts of why he couldn't have instituted that stuff, because evidently if you're a king, you can fucking do whatever you want to a degree, according to his father. So why can't Akeem just, like, change his shit up and everything? Well, it could have been because it's, like, a constitutional monarchy, where he's the figurehead and can do all this stuff, but he's got to run it by some elected officials or whatnot. That could have been some intrigue, and why he could not just be like, you know what, make my daughter like this, like he does at the end of the fucking movie, and be like, yeah, you're my heir. Okay, you've done something that you could have done completely at the beginning. Why the fuck are we doing this again? And we could have seen what his daughter was potentially doing in the background to do all any kind of stuff, or try to create and shift it to a democracy or whatnot, and what that kind of entails. But no, we have like the bare fucking thing of like, okay, since male heirs take it, I gotta go get this dude. And we go and we see Lavelle. We get a Dukes brothers. I think they were the Dukes brothers. The old dudes who did the stuff in the movie Trading Places, where that was another great Eddie Murphy movie, where they switched places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. He was on the street. The other dude was kind of like top tier and kind of financial kind of stuff. They kind of switched their places and were making bets with each other, got down on their luck. They made an appearance in the first Coming to America, and Lavelle is having an interview with grandson or whatnot. Of course, it goes shitty south, and he's like, fuck you, dude, and goes and does his shit. We, of course, get Akeem and Semi dropping in on the barbershop guys, and we just get essentially their greatest hits kind of thing. We don't even get, like, the soup spoon joke at the end of the first Coming to America, because that's a funny joke. It's like, can you taste the soup? Where's the spoon? But they're pretty much trying to figure out where his son is. They kind of get there. He dresses up in a different kind of thing and tells him he's his son. He, of course, grabs his mom and everything. Goes, oh, shit. Because they had dropped, like, a suitcase full of money and gold and shit. And they, of course, see him on the gold lawn. And like, yeah, let's go there. And they're trying to pretty much, like, pass him off. So he's got to do all these princely kind of things. He then starts getting involved with his royal groomer, Mirambe, and her character has the depth of, like, she evidently loves American films. That's where they start talking about sequels and shit like that. And she wants to run her own barbershop. It is the basic shit possible. It's like, alright, I have no idea why you're fucking interested in this dude, and I don't know why he's fucking interested in you. Because they do just weird kind of shit, like, hairstyle-wise. Not weird kind of shit. She, like, cuts his hair and shit to give him more kind of a Zamundan style. And he evidently has to walk like a prince. He's got to go and get whiskers from a lion. which his sister at first was like, screw your shit, and then helps him create a kind of diversion so he's able to get the thing, even though it took Akeem like 11 tries or whatnot. I'm like, yeah, it's going up to a fucking lion and fucking getting its whiskers. Ugh. Everybody kind of bullshits on that kind of shit. It's like, fine, whatever. And then to go through with like a circumcision kind of ceremony, even though there's you sacrificed your pride for someone. No, that's the Prince shit. Yeah. And Izzy, of course, is checking in and making sure, hey, we still doing that shit? Yeah. Of course, they showed off his daughter, and Lavelle's like, yeah, okay. And his mother's like doing shit and generally being kind of like an asshole. Lisa's like, first, I like this lady. And then she gets drunk with her and like, now I like this lady. Lisa gets screwed over royally again because it's not watching the same characters from the same movie. Now I understand change has occurred 30 years, but things of that nature have to be shown or alluded to or even told about to even get to that effect, because it's just like these characters are acting like the plot demands how they act, not how you would organically storyboard out what would have occurred in 30 years time in this world. And it's just like, what the fuck ever. It's like, alright. So fucking weird, man. Just really fucking weird. So they're doing everything, getting ready to get through on the wedding, but of course Izzy's daughter is just like the prearranged woman 30 years ago. She's like, I like whatever you like, of course. Lamelle's like, you know what? I kind of want to be with my groomer lady. And he wants to go to run it by Akeem, as he, of course, is running his mouth, being like, oh, you doing stuff just like your father, pretty much to, like, use this kid to, like, cement, peace and everything. Lavelle's like, I ain't liking that shit. So him and his mom and his uncle fucking jet off back to America, and Morambe goes with them, so that way her and Lavelle can get married. Of course, Lisa lays into Akeem about doing all the same shit his father would do, and it's like, really? Because I don't see that. But fuck, it must be true because somebody's saying it. Ugh. And he's trying to figure out how to fix the situation, so he's gonna go after his son and see what to do. Gets in there. We of course get the Reverend dude being a weird, kind of nutty ass dude, fucking got a bed behind his like podium and shit. But they're gonna pretty much get married. Keem's like, wait, and he's like, no, I heard you about all that stuff, and pretty much takes him to task for him. He's like, no, I wanna get my blessing on this marriage and everything like that. He's like, yeah, we should be here. And of course, Morambe wants to be in Zamunda, and of course the laws dictate that she can't own a barber shop, and that's pretty much part of the reason why, but she loves Zamunda as well. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit better for character development, but he's like, alright, let's go back. While this is going on, General Izzy then of course tries to pretty much do the stuff at the wedding, and his daughters pretty much kick his ass and get a diplomatic solution of like, just, I don't even know what they say. They're like, oh, alright, let's try and do this diplomatically. She like kicked his ass, but only he's got like an army of like warlord motherfuckers. Granted, I'm always for the diplomatic solution, but I don't see how her and her sisters and semi-fighting some people in a shitty fight scene hammers out to a diplomatic solution. So they pretty much go, and he's like, alright, this is pretty cool. Alright, we're okay. And Lavelle and Morambe get married, and Sexual Chocolate performs, and we get more cameos and shit, and then we get bloopers at the end. I saw the trailers for this and thought, okay, this could be okay. It's on Amazon. I don't have to pay for it. Now, granted, it is not as bad as Velocipaster. That is a whole different kind of fucknutting shit that I had to deal with. But this is not up to the standards, comedy-wise, of, like, even new Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall. It's like, it's just rerunning the same shit from the first movie. I'm like, what? And then just doing it so poorly. I'm just like, oh, okay, alright. And then the cameos just keep busting the fuck in and just derailing shit. And it's like, alright, guess we gotta have these guys to have their time. Now, granted, if you're gonna have a cameo, fucking utilize it and execute it well. I have to say that. But here, it's just like, alright, shouldn't we kind of get back to this plot? Shouldn't have all of that time and energy. You want a solid base. So that way, everything is value added with a cameo. Not that everything is dependent on some kind of cameo or whatnot. Or otherwise, if you start... Alright, say you're making a Blizzard. Or a McFlurby or whatnot. You're making this ice cream thing. And you're going to add toppings and shit into it. You want to make sure that when you got that base, that ice cream, what you add into it is going to work harmoniously with it. Otherwise, you're going to get some motherfucker that's like, yeah, let's put some pickles in this. I'm like, what? That's going to work for like a subset of customers? And that could create some really weird kind of shit going on with this ice cream. And just put some pickles, anchovies, animal semen, and the blood of a deranged rabid wombat that fucked a possum in 1983. Questions, comments, and concerns down below. But you're just like, none of that would make, like, why? Why is that added in there? Because I want it. Alright, that doesn't mean it makes it fucking good. Oh, I know that was a weird fucking analogy and a weird fucking way to go that way, but the thing is, what happens is they throw in so many cameos that I'm like, oh, it's this dude, and they focus on that dude, or lady, or whoever, and it's like, alright, I watched this movie before. I get that. I would have rather been watching that movie. If you're a fan of the original, I don't know what you would think of this one. Because I'm a fan and I'm just like, you just shit on everything. Now granted, if you like this movie, I don't think you're bad or deficient or wrong. Okay, you enjoy it. That's fine. That's cool. It's not a problem. But that's definitely not a problem. I just think that it deserved to be better. And that they have done better in the original. I'm like, yeah. It was so disappointing. I'm watching this and I'm like, did they really just pretty much be like, he got drugged and raped and this is where we're gonna, like, be for this? It confounded me. I'm like, Lord, that takes some skill to handle in the best of times, and this was not handled best for me. I'm like, I don't know what it is. Like, whenever you're making a sequel, you usually have about two main routes. You go all in nostalgia-wise and be as respectful as possible and as true to the characters as possible that you're dealing with. Or you go and, yes, you recognize the stuff that had happened before and chart new territory. A lot of ways that a lot of people have been doing sequels and everything nowadays, they try to ride both of those horses with one ass and fucking whiskey throttle a motherfucker into a goddamn concrete wall and just fucking don't understand why it's not working. Because you have to juggle so much shit and be very careful in what you're doing to make sure that the nostalgia doesn't come off as just fucking crazy, or you are trying to, like, shove a new thing down the throat and say that, oh, the nostalgia shit's bad, this shit's good. It's like, what? And this is just like just a gut punch for me, because that's like some top tier Eddie Murphy stuff. And I was looking forward to like, oh, let's see what Eddie Murphy can do now with this. See if he kind of bridges his older school style. Now, granted, you get older, you change up your style and everything, you try new ways. That's fine, that's cool. But this was just like, oh, copy it as much as possible and do as little work as possible and go through. Now, granted, a lot of work went into this. I understand that and I acknowledge that. But it's like, the barest minimum was done with what was going on with this plot, and I would have thought that like Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall and the rest of the characters would have tried to, or at least been given more input to be like, I don't think these characters would act like this. It's just so fucking disappointing. But at least I didn't have to deal with a fucking hunchback T-Rex. It's supposed to be a Velocipaster. I will acknowledge that. So, I do not recommend this for character development, for a direct continuation of what was going on from the first Coming to America, and the action scenes sucked. Granted, I understand that's not their forte with this, but if you are going to do action scenes, at least do a better attempt than this. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.